The job of the account management team is to help the organization to win. We've got to do the work of asking radically curious questions. Our assumptions are killing us. The best thing that an account management leader can be doing today is get in the mode of talking about what you do as the growth department for the company. Land and expand has never been more important than it is right now. Account managers deliver profitable revenue back to the company by keeping our customers, growing our customers, and making sure there are no surprises. Talk to your customers, share the results, share your knowledge, provide some insights. It all leads back to revenue. Account management is an incredible career path for a mature B2B company. 71% of their revenue comes from existing customers. That means that 29% comes from new sales. New sales gets 80% of the go-to-market budget in return for 30% of the revenue. I believe that we should therefore have a VP sales and a VP growth from existing customers. The CRO should be managing the entirety of the revenue cycle, not just some slice of it.
Dude, I was supposed to buy my family tickets to the Zach Bryan show today at Golden Gate Park. And so my strategy for major events is to wait until it's about to start, right, and buy the ticket because the prices drop. But sometimes I forget that only works when it's me and the boys or me and a buddy. When you have a wife that wants to go, she does not want that strategy.
No, that's
and I'm
a
like,
bad
dude,
strategy.
and her friends are like, oh, they're $80 on Craigslist. And I'm like, dude, okay, the guy's selling it for like 40% of the cost and he hasn't sold it. There's like 15 listings with the $80 price. I'm like, that is a scam.
That is a scam.
A full-blown scam. So anyway, the other thing is I don't know anything about this type of music, so I didn't know that there's multiple guys with the last name Bryan. So I spent a couple minutes going, God, this Luke Bryan guy, he's not playing at Golden Gate Park. So I'm like looking at these other, I mean, just in case people are wondering, Luke Bryan.
That show's tonight?
Yeah, it's going to be, all their buddies are going, so, which is a new thing for me, which is, they're almost 14, so they're doing those types of things now. So it should be fun. I mean, I don't know anything about the guy. I mean, but I also don't think I would take my kids to the Metallica show when that comes to town. But maybe. Matt, your thoughts on that? Or
I mean, music was a big part of my life when I was growing up, so it should be
I went to see 3 Fish shows over the 4th of July weekend in Boulder. I hadn't seen Fish in like 10 years, but they were playing 2.5 miles from my house. So I'm like, sure, I'll go.
Well, that's good because normally, do the Fish shows still clog up interstate highways for days? Because my brother used to go, and the pictures were hilarious. They're just like cars going into the Fish show, and like he would be like, "Dude, it takes like 6 hours to get in there."
Some of the festivals do, yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing.
From ABM to PLG, from Medic to MedPick, the world of business is constantly evolving. We'll cover the who, what, where, when, why, and most importantly, how you get the transaction. I'm Matt Amundson, and he's Craig Rosenberg. Let's get started.
All right, so let's get going. I'll give the background setup here because I think
let's do it.
This is a new topic for us, but it's one of the most important ones. So here's why Raymond is on the show. I'm not doing the full. I have to actually lead. Normally, I lead it all up and then say, "Here's the guest." But on this one, I want to lay this out. No rug pull. No lead in, man. Because all right. So I actually met Alex like 3 or 4 years ago. He's always been passionate about, I'd say, strategically, retention, upsell, cross-sell, account growth.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically, he's one of the only dudes in the world who's focused and dedicated his research and his services and his life to this account management function. As he likes to say when he's talking to me, isn't this one of the most important things you're supposed to be doing? And what we both realized together is it is, but that nobody puts the strategy, people, process, technology together to go do it right.
Yeah.
And so I was like, so I did his show, and he was trying to ask me questions, and I was asking him questions, because I think it's an amazing topic that we don't spend enough time on. So I'm like, well, if we're going to do that, let's go get him on the transaction. So, ladies and gentlemen, I will repeat myself and welcome Alex Raymond to the transaction. Alex, welcome.
Awesome. Hey, thanks so much, Craig. Great to see you guys.
Because you're new to Matt, and we don't normally do this, but in cases like you, can you just spend 4 sentences telling the audience and Matt and Sam kind of, how, what your your business life is like? How do you help people, and what are you focused on?
And it can be more or less than 4 sentences. No pressure.
Why? You went over the top on me right there.
Yeah,
Hold on
I did indeed.
Let's see. Let's see
that?
How compact I can get this. I was the founder and CEO of Capta for 10 years. Capta is a software company in the account management space. And so during that time, I worked with literally hundreds of companies and thousands of individual account managers to help them figure out, how do we lower churn, increase advocacy, increase growth from our existing customers, and frankly, get the recognition that we deserve. And when I left Capta last summer, I started a new venture called AMplify. AMplify is a growth community for account managers. So people come there when they want to learn proven systems and tools. They want to do all the things an account manager does. They want to connect with their peers around the world. They want to help their career. Maybe they're in transition, all this stuff. And so I've just gone deeper and deeper down this rabbit hole, if you will, of account management, to realize that, like Craig said, so many people consider this an afterthought, and yet it drives a huge part of every B2B company's revenue and, of course, their profits.
All right. See, Matt, it's possible.
That was like 7 sentences.
Depends on where you put the colons, the semicolons, and stuff like that.
M dash. Okay,
M-dash.
Wait, Matt, let's start with this, Alex. Because I kind of popped you on Matt. So Matt, your reaction to like what Alex is working on. Interesting, right?
Well, it's super valuable. And
yeah.
I mean, I think, Craig, you set it up well. It's like, it's one of those things that you should do and you kind of always put off. And I think in a lot of cases, operators of a company are usually put in a position where, hey, we've got to go make this happen, figure it out. And there's usually not budget for technology. There's usually not necessarily headcount specific to managing the process, building process, etc. It's one of those things that like oftentimes comes up maybe last in an ELT meeting, and hey, just go make this happen is usually the strategy, or figure it out. And, I've worked in organizations like when I was at Tibco, where, so much of the company's revenue came from this type of practice, whether that was selling additional services, selling additional SKUs, renewing, re-upping, increasing usage, etc. And I've seen it work. And in businesses like that, it's very well thought out. Specific teams, specific technology, specific scoring within like a CRM around it, all kinds of data being collected to ensure that this process runs as smoothly as possible. But what I can tell you just from my own experiences in startup world, that's often just not the case. And basically everywhere else I've ever worked, it's not been the case.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. What I would offer there is, you need to reach a certain level of maturity before this becomes a problem worth solving.
Yeah,
so if you're at whatever, $1 million, $5 million, $10 million, you're not there yet because you're probably just chasing growth, and you're chasing top line growth as opposed to all the mechanics of figuring out who's profitable, where's the actual money coming from, and stuff like that. So I certainly would agree with that and say that this only becomes something that gets to the top of the priority list once you're, at least 10 million in revenue, if not larger. Of course, really, really big companies, then they've got whole teams associated to do this, and they bring in consultants who charge tons of money to solve these problems for them. But there's kind of a sweet spot of companies, say between sort of 10-ish million to 100 to 200 million, where they know they have a problem. Churn is a big deal. Losing customers not only hurts them in the moment when it's happening, but it starts to affect company valuation.
Yep.
And that's when everyone's like, oh, we need to go do something about this.
Well, one of the things that I would say, just given the current environment, where the exception to this rule, at least in the market, might be happening right now. As companies transition from being SaaS businesses to being AI first, even though they're technically like AI second businesses, the need for them to be able to actually go into their install base and sort of resell maybe a new solution or whatever their AI version 1.0 is going to be as they transition off a SaaS product and onto an AI product, seems like right now a lot of companies are struggling with it. And this could be like a perfect opportunity to start instituting some of the stuff that you're talking about for a slightly more mature company in a slightly younger or smaller ARR business.
Yeah, for sure. In fact, that exact use case is something I just had someone on the podcast, Mike Rapp from IntelliPeer, and they're basically saying, we have this huge install base. Now we have this AI product. We're going to pitch them on this stuff, and we need, therefore, to get really good at selling to existing customers and expanding existing accounts. So, yeah.
Yep.
Look at that.
You like that? You like
Look at that. We agree right off the bat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, all right. So that actually, I figured he would. By the way, it's a really, I mean, you're tackling a really important topic that isn't being tackled enough. So let's just say that. All right. So there's two key questions in the show. I'll go through them and then I'll ask you. So one is we ask everyone to lead with a story. It could be anything on your side. Hopefully there's a business lesson from it. You can always tell us something crazy and we can create a business lesson like Brett Adamson talked about maggots on a plane. Actually, I'm still not sure the business moral of the story on that, but it was a really good story. And then, Sam gave you a couple other examples, and we're open to anything there. Okay, then the second one, we're just going to ask you like 1 to 3 things that people are doing today that work. Part of the reason we started the show was we saw that the playbooks that worked previously have sort of been smashed, and like we're trying to use the show to help rebuild it. And so the key question for us at that point is like, what are the things that work? Okay. So the first one is, are you ready, Alex? Because I think this might be one that I might have popped on you at midnight last night. So
I got it.
Tell us a story.
All right. So quick story. I've been an entrepreneur for a long time. So I have not taken a paycheck from anyone else since 2008. And along that way, I built companies. I lived in Hong Kong. I lived in China. So I've been an entrepreneur there. And I've lived in Boulder, Colorado, where I am today for a long time. And I wasn't ready when I became an entrepreneur for the emotional toil, the up and downs of actually running a business. And I found that it hit me pretty hard. Like I got a lot of this like imposter syndrome, thinking, why would anybody care to know what I think? And who am I to be doing this stuff? And I would feel out of place in a room with all these fancy, CEOs who've raised a lot of money or had great exits or what have you. And I realized that was starting to affect my ability to go out there and get stuff done. So my story is, 4 years ago, I started a community and event for entrepreneurs. I call it the Conscious Entrepreneur Summit. And this is a pure labor of love side gig for me. But every year in Colorado, we get together, depending on the year, 150 to 200 entrepreneurs, and we work on the inner journey of entrepreneurship. So we just had our 4th year in May. It was incredible. And what I want to share there is an idea that has really been resonating with me and sticking with me. Our keynote speaker, like the main guy this year, his name is Ben Hardy, Dr. Benjamin Hardy. He co-wrote a really well-known book called 10X is Easier Than 2X with this guy, Dan Sullivan. And then he recently wrote a book called The Science of Scaling. Now, Ben's a super, super nice guy. And he's younger than me. He's like in his, I don't know, probably like mid-30s or something like that. He's a young guy, very sweet guy, but he's very aggressive. And, he's like, why aren't you growing faster? Why aren't you doing more? Why aren't you getting more stuff done? And the idea of his that really stuck with me that I wanted to share here with you and your audience is he really turned me on to the idea of exponential thinking versus incremental thinking and how that relates not just to me as a person, but also how it relates to my businesses. And then I started to think, how can I incorporate this into AMplify, my current business, so that the mindset around thinking bigger is something that's at the heart of what we do. And so I've incorporated his work. First, I have a mastermind that I'm running of about 18 other CEOs where we're going through this and like really pushing ourselves. But on top of that, within the account management community, I've picked up on this and been like, why aren't we talking way, way bigger about our impact and what we can be doing? So I bring all that together to say that first, I've learned a ton from being an entrepreneur. I love it. I think I'm at this point totally unemployable by anybody else. No one will hire me, but I'm trying to find ways to support other entrepreneurs as we go. And this 10x thinking is something that like really, really hit me. And I've been wanting to find more ways to get it out into the world.
Man, so there's a built-in moral. Yeah. All right. So that was easy. Matt and I don't have to do any analysis on that. I love.
Did you like that? Was that one okay? Yeah.
Well,
that,
for
that
a couple
was
things.
A very good one. That was a very good
Yeah, very really good. So one is Boulder, Colorado.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Boulder, Colorado. Yeah, and Colorado, depending.
Either.
Why can't in Colorado when we go out there for business more? We need more people in Boulder so I can go to Boulder. That is a great city.
It's a great city.
By the way, not underrated,
No.
but just kind of a journey to get
Great
there.
city. Great city. Yep.
Yeah.
I'd say properly rated.
Yeah, properly rated.
Yeah,
But just,
people think highly of it, and you get there and it delivers.
yeah, but you can't always get there.
It's hard to get there.
Boulder doesn't have a very big business community. It's a small town. And so, that's the thing. So people go to Denver, and then even Denver, companies outgrow Denver. There's a lot of companies that move to the Bay Area because they sort of get to their size in Denver, can't grow anymore, or frankly, they just get acquired by some Silicon Valley company. That happens a lot too.
Sure.
Yeah.
And there's no good food.
Oh, dude, I had to go to Ring Central. That was in Centennial, Colorado. That was like Claim Jumper Chili's Central, bro. I mean, like, I was like, get me to Boulder, man. I'll get
Boulder has great food.
Get my focus. Yeah, I know. Actually, downtown Denver, does it not have good food?
Yeah, the
It
Rhino
does.
area is good.
It does, yeah.
Yeah. All right, but Centennial, maybe not. Okay, so that was a great story. The other thing, the 10X thing, just thinking big, I think, well, that's awesome. I'm going to go read his stuff. It sounds like amazing, and it's cool that you have a labor of love helping folks trying to, build businesses. I think that's awesome. So
Yeah, I mean, I've worked with so many first-time CEOs, and I think that they are often not prepared for the emotional toil of being a CEO. Right? It's so stressful. It's part of the reason why I just never ever want to be a CEO. Never.
Yeah.
There's a certain language among entrepreneurs, that we talk. We can recognize it in each other. So when we get away from those events or those networking, we're all like chest thumping and stuff like that, and we have kind of a sidebar conversation. That's when you use all these phrases, and everyone like kind of levels out, and they're like, "Oh yeah, this shit's super hard."
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. By the way, Matt's saying he'll never there was an operative word, never want to be a CEO, but he does a lot of things he doesn't want to do, and he does it really well. So like, my bet here on the transaction is in the next 5 years, Matt will be the CEO of something.
Let's do it.
For
Let's
sure,
do it, Matt.
No.
Don't worry, you've got Alex to help you get through this emotionally.
I'll have 2 teenagers at that point. No, there's no way.
Oh, dude. Okay. All right. We can discuss that later.
We'll clip that, and if it ever happens, we got it here first.
All right.
That's right.
There's
That's right.
There's your scoop.
And then, we'll we'll put odds out there and see if people want to lay some bets. We'll see what happens. All right. So let's talk let's go back. Let's talk about this amazing topic that Alex talked about. And so, Alex, one of the reasons we're very excited to have you on is not because we've actually discussed the topic today the way people discuss it. What we really need to know is what do we need to be doing today?
Yeah.
So like, let's transition there. Like, if you had to give us like 1 to 3 things that really that work today that companies should be doing, like what are those things? And then we'll just ask questions. We'll see how the conversation goes from there.
Awesome. So I'll take this from the point of view of an account management leader, right? So someone who's running a team. Now, As I use the phrase account management, I understand that some people's heads are going to customer success because they're thinking post sales.
Yeah.
I still see a distinction between the two. In my mind, account management is 100% a revenue function, right? This is 100%. In customer success, it gets all a little bit squirrely about who does what, and people are involved in implementation and onboarding and training and customer happiness and this, that, and the other. Account managers, they may do some of that, but at the end of the day, they're there for driving revenue. So when I say account management, yes, some of it's going to be CS relevant, but it's still a very distinct set of skills and capabilities.
Yep, perfect.
The best thing that an account management leader can be doing today is get in the mode of talking about what you do as the growth department for the company. Okay? So get out of this mindset that's like, I'm in reactive mode and I'm doing this, that, and the other, and I got a million things on my plate, and just say, the job of the account management team is to help the organization to win. The way that we help our company win is by delivering profitable revenue back to the business. Okay, everyone's with me so far. So account managers deliver profitable revenue back to the company. They make an operating contribution back to the organization. The way that we do that is by keeping our customers, growing our customers, and making sure there are no surprises along the way. So no surprises lurking in the shadows. Now,
love number 3, by the way.
So this mindset, therefore, is I'm not a reactive account manager just trying to figure out what's what, and my job is not necessarily only churn, or it's not only expansion, whatever. My job is to literally grow the company. When you look at some of the data associated with this, on a typical year, and by the way, this is not a typical year. On a typical year, for a mature B2B company, 71% of their revenue comes from existing customers. Okay?
Yep.
That means that 29% comes from new sales. New sales gets 80% of the go-to-market budget in return for 30% of the revenue. So imagine what would happen if, as an account management leader, you started talking in the phrasing I was just using. You could then go command a whole lot more resources. So that's one thing. Start thinking of ourselves as the growth department. The second thing is have a methodology. So Craig, you very briefly mentioned people, process, technology, and all this stuff. You go to any salesperson, you go to a sales leader, and you corner him or her at a trade show. What's your methodology? And they'll talk your ear off about Medic, MedPick, Spin, Sandler, whatever the thing is, right? They've got it down. They've got their playbook. It's all regimented and so on. Many parts of the business have very specific operating procedures and things that they're doing. You go to an account management leader and you say, what's your methodology? And they're like, I don't know. I just respond to whatever's in my inbox. I fight fires all day. I'm getting pulled in 100 directions. And so I want people to start being really thoughtful about adopting a process, right? So I've got one. Kudos to Ben Hardy, who I was just talking about. Mine's called the AMplify 10X growth system, A10X for short, okay? And this is a very simple, sort of philosophical framework for people to grow their accounts by solving bigger problems, being radically curious, and raising the floor. Raising the floor means stop doing all the stupid shit that's keeping you from doing meaningful work. So those are two. Be the growth department, deploy a system, and then finally is figure out who the owner is. Like step up and take ownership of this stuff. One of the reasons that account management is somewhat of an afterthought or a backwater is because you can't point in the direction of someone and say, who's in charge of growing my existing customers, right? Like the CEO can't just point at a single person. And so I love it when I see account management leaders, functional heads stepping up to say, yes, this is my role. So those are three things that I see the best companies out there doing. They're thinking like the growth department. They've got a system and they're putting it into place, and they've got ownership of the bigger problem.
Cool. All right. So, Matt, I was thinking about diving into number 2 a little bit, or any thoughts from you?
No, I just love the, sort of the grab the bull by the horns mentality here of like saying, hey, I'm a growth driver for the business, and then having a mission statement for that. And I do think that like having a dedicated team is always what's most important. I've seen so many instances of customer success teams suddenly trying to be transitioned to be account management teams. It's a very different skill set. The other thing that I see is like, oh, well, let's bring in some of the account executives to come in and try to close this. They've got an existing comp plan. We'll give them some sort of addendum to their comp plan to do this. And then it becomes sort of an operational, kind of disaster. We talked about like when the right time for this might be, but like, let's talk about, just because a lot of our audience is smaller organizations. How do we think about that if we're, maybe we're not in a place where we can get 71% of our new revenue, but maybe we want to get 30% or 40% of our new revenue from there. Like, what would you recommend for somebody smaller? Is it like, hey, let's hire a different type of skill set on the CS team. Let's engage those AEs. Because I've seen people kind of come at it from different angles. And I know that everybody's, trying to optimize for staff size and whatnot. And augmenting with this dedicated AM team can be a challenge. But I mean, if there's gold to be mined, then it makes sense. But maybe you can, I know you typically work with larger businesses, but like, what would you recommend for somebody who's, hovering at that $10 million mark?
I've seen and worked with plenty of those kind of companies, Matt. And there's a very important part of the overall growth process here, which is land and expand. And land and expand has never been more important than it is right now.
Yeah.
And if my entire corporate model is just a bunch of hunters who are out there slinging arrows here and there, and great, they win a new customer, throw it over to professional services or implementation or whomever, and then they get on with it. Think of the amount of effort that goes into acquiring that customer.
Sure.
Right? Huge cost. We've got all this data from Pavilion, from Ebsta, all over the place around how it's so inefficient these days to acquire customers. So we're spending all this time doing that. And then once we have them, we're basically handing them to the JV team. Right?
Yeah.
We're like, hey, here you go. Good luck. Training, enablement, software, skills, team, sorry, no, you're just going to have to make it up as you go. And then we wonder, like, why isn't my growth there, right? So if what we're really going after is compounding growth, you got to have a solid foundation. So land and expand is important. Focusing on churn, which is, pre-product market fit, you still want to focus on churn because it's a indicator of, are we moving in the right direction? Are we on the right track? And so, I would say you want to invest in this team before you think you need it, right? Because otherwise, if you get to a point where your gross revenue retention is like 75% or something, then you've got a big problem. So invest in this ahead of time, because not only are you going to make your sales team more efficient, you're also going to learn a ton from your customer. Like, what's one of the main jobs of an account manager is to be radically curious and figure out what's actually going on with our client.
Yeah.
And so they're doing that. They're feeding information back into the company so that we can make better products, we can add better services, we can change the marketing copy on the website or whatever it is to reflect the reality of our customers. So personally, I say don't wait until it's too late to do this. Like, don't think of this as just a big company problem. Yeah, maybe you don't have a full team, but there's a lot of experienced, really, really great professionals out there who can come and at least help you to have a solid foundation.
All right, so let's move from there. I just want to make note that I said, well, I would like to dive in on number 2. Matt, do you agree? And he goes, yeah. And then he went on to his own topic. Did you guys notice that?
I did.
I thought it was good. He didn't say no, I have something else. He pretended to agree and then went in his direction. I like this direction though, Matt. I'm going to make note of that.
I'm on Dayquil.
Wow. I mean, yeah. All right. Well, we'll see.
I'm very sensitive to over-the-counter drugs.
Your Dayquil
Well,
was like
I thought it was
air missile.
well. To be honest, I
Craig
thought
trying
it
to land
was.
the plane.
I thought it was a really good topic because it does lead into some things that Alex has a take on that I think are important. So we said it's. I like how we ended there, which is like, you should invest before it becomes a massive board level problem, which is what happens. Let's be honest.
Always, yeah.
But Alex, one thing you and I talked about, and I'm just going to let you run. So one thing I think, as we teach people, the best way to do this is organizational design, and you have a take on that I thought was amazing on, because of number 1, which is we are like, this is for growth. Like, we are one of the keys for growth. We drive this stuff. So the role of account management as an afterthought, it's like, we're going to push it to the front. So where should it live? like how should we think about that team structure? So org design. All right. So go.
So organizational design is a very sensitive topic. Obviously, it's pretty touchy for people, especially those who might be in the role. And I'll just be very clear. One of the roles that I'm still getting my head around, that I still don't fully understand, even though I've had a bunch of these people on my podcast, is I don't fully understand the chief customer officer role. Okay. It strikes me that I think it's a great sort of concept. I understand what the three words together mean, but I haven't always seen the chief customer officer saying, yes, I own a $50 million book of revenue, and my job is to make that $75 million in 2 years or whatever, like stuff like that. I see a lot of people saying, I'm the chief customer officer. I've got support, implementation, customer success, and account management reporting to me, but I don't report to the revenue person. I report to the operations person, the COO, and therefore I'm kind of peers with the CRO, but I don't really have the revenue number. And I don't think that's the right approach. I think, so here's where I'm just going to go on this, Craig, is I believe that all revenue should roll up to the chief revenue officer.
Okay.
They've got it in their title. And I believe that we should therefore have a VP sales and a VP growth. So a VP growth from existing customers, who is the peer of the person who's going out there and leading the hunting team. So you've got hunters and farmers both reporting to the CRO. Why? Because the CRO should be managing the entirety of the revenue cycle, not just some slice of it. And by the way, seeing very clearly how the interplay is happening between new customers, existing customers, those that renew and expand, those that churn, et cetera, and what we can learn for it. So I'm an advocate for a VP or SVP growth type of title. I don't want to like throw shade on the chief customer officers out there. I'm just saying, me personally, I haven't figured out where it belongs and how it belongs, unless it's, yes, we're a chief customer officer and I happen to report to a CRO, in which case I've got a chief reporting to a chief reporting to a chief, which is its own issue around title inflation. But for me, the growth department is the way that we've got to get our minds around changing this conversation. Agree, disagree?
Well, I like this. I think VP of growth might get muddy because there's a whole bunch of VP of growth roles sort of
in marketing.
That are marketing.
You call it VP customer growth, something like that also.
Yeah, for sure. That was very tactical comment by me. But I was going to make a comment to Matt that it feels like marketing keeps inventing names like VP of growth and head of marketing and those things.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I think it's, we talk about the playbook changing all the time, right? And I think that the growth marketer is just, it's almost a signal to the market that we don't want the demand gen marketer anymore. Like we don't want the old tactics. So we want this growth marketer who's, and that evolved out of like the concept of growth hacking, which like, that's a term I'm glad that no one says out loud anymore. People used to.
We're not doing any account management hacking here. No, that's not.
I mean,
not on the
what
agenda.
the hacking, guys? Come on. I'm so happy that like the new role is GTM engineer. Like that's a much better name than like, oh, we're hacking something. Like we do this in the darkness, and there's all this. We're sitting here in a terminal, just like hacking away at something. It's just like absolutely ridiculous.
I led us down a path. That was a. I mean, your take is well received, Matt.
But you don't like the path. I get it.
No, I sent us down the path. That was my bad, not yours. You were just responding to my comment.
I was.
So, yeah. So, but generally, I think this is great. Let me ask you a couple clarifiers. Then I want to ask you about the type of people. Before that, though, so where does CS go?
CS either needs to own revenue, in which case it belongs under the VP or SVP of customer growth that we're just talking about, or it needs to split up and decide that it's doing training and implementation and live in the PS org.
Okay, that was good. Matt, reaction to that?
I totally agree.
Okay, cool. See, so I like this. And so, okay.
And
so
wait,
now,
before, because we went down a path and then you didn't like the path, but I do want to come back to what Alex was saying, which is I like the name of a VP of growth being somebody who's associated with growing revenue more than growing marketing pipeline. Because I think a lot of times like we're like, oh, we're going to grow the business with pipeline. Yeah, sure. of course, we're going to grow the business with pipeline, but we're ultimately all measured on one thing. It's the growth of revenue, right? So like having somebody who's dedicated to growing revenue in the sales organization through, cross-sell and upsell, to me is like, that makes far more sense than a VP of growth being a marketer.
Well, so Matt, let me take it a step further. There's research from Software Equity Group that shows us not just is revenue what we're being measured on. A lot of times we're being measured on the value of the company. Like, is the company growing in value? So Software Equity Group has this data that shows that companies with an NRR, so net revenue retention, of 120% or more have a 63% valuation gap over 5 years versus their peers who stay at 100%. So if one of the things that you most care about is how big is my company getting? What are my options worth? How much is it? What's the enterprise value of the company? Then that means that even more so do we need to focus on this stuff, because as net revenue retention goes up, not only does that lead to revenue and profits, that leads to a substantial boost in the value of the company.
Yeah.
I love it. All right. So, no, actually, Matt, that was a great. See, the issue on the previous, the issue on the previous path, you hadn't tied it back. Then you came in, I didn't let you. That was your fault.
I was
tied it back.
I was gonna try.
And then I interrupted and made comment. Okay. All right. So we're back. So I like this. So what is a good, like, is there, what's the difference in hiring profiles here? So the VP of, let's call it VP of growth or leader of growth, and then account managers. What is there? I know every business has their own unique attributes, but generally speaking, what's it like? Because I'm just going to make this one comment, then I'll hand it to you, which is there are people that think they like account management, but they don't think like revenue generators. They're helpers. So in your model, which everyone here is actually in agreement. I mean, I haven't asked Sam, but we're
100%.
following, tracking. We're going with you here.
Lockstep.
So who do we need? Like, what kind of people like make good folks to live in the growth and account management function, and how are they different than the net new sellers, or maybe they're not?
They are different from the net new sellers. So account managers, we need creative problem solvers with strong business acumen. Okay, so we need people who are willing to go in there. You know who makes great account managers is consultants, former consultants. Right?
Yeah,
why? Because they see the big picture. They can have conversations about all sorts of stuff. They have a really strong business mind. They solve problems. They ask great questions. Those are really good indicators of someone who's going to excel in an account manager role. Now, it all leads back to revenue. So you also then have to have business acumen, the ability to negotiate, present a value proposition, close a sale. This group is not so much hunters, because we like to build long-term lasting relationships and really get into it with the client. So it's not like this group does not just love the art of the chase, right? So to speak. So this group loves to solve big, meaty, meaningful problems. And if you look, so one thing I want to disabuse everyone of right now is this is not a backwater career, right? This is not a place where people go who are like, oh, you're like sales, but you're nicer, so I'm going to make you an account management. No.
That's so true.
Yep.
Account management is an incredible career path. And if you look at bigger companies, I know this is not the audience here, but if bigger companies, you basically can become the CEO of a portfolio. That portfolio can be as big as lots of individual businesses. You have a ton of clout. You have span across the entire organization, and you're delivering like gajillions of dollars of profit back into your company. Those are big, big, big deal roles. And so it's a great career path for a lot of people. So if you're curious, if you're creative, if you want to solve problems, if you like working with people, if you like going the extra mile for people, and you've got a great business head on your shoulders, account management is a fantastic opportunity.
Okay. I love it. All right.
Yeah.
So, and then is there a ton of leadership you feel like? By the way, I love consultants, and the reason I also like them in account management, I've had a bunch of CROs I've worked with over the years that like their ability to truly do discovery, find the big thing, find the key initiatives, those things, but aren't like net new closing was hard. So they'd hire him for that role. That role is a big adjustment for them, like the timelines and those things that just kind of have a slightly different personality. I love them for the account management role.
Can I expand on that a second, Greg?
Yeah, please.
So one of the tenets of the A10X system I was just talking about, which is basically a methodology for account managers, the first tenet is solve bigger problems. And so here's what's happening with solve bigger problems, and here's why it matters what you were just saying. Solve bigger problems means your client has put you in a box. When they bought your thing the first time, they said, oh, great, this company does this thing, it's in a box, and that's all they think about you for. Right? They don't think about you for anything outside of the box. And that's a big issue for account managers because you go and all you ever get to do is talk about this year's renewal or the expansion of the identical thing. You never really get to break that open. But you bring in someone who's got a consulting background or who really wants to get to the bottom of the problem. They have this skill to solve bigger problems, which are upstream of the current problem. Right? So they can say, hey, you've got this problem with, whatever it is, web traffic. Okay, what's driving that? Well, this is driving that. What's driving that? And they keep going upstream to solve a bigger problem. So guess what happens? Bigger problems means more money to solve them, bigger opportunity. And so that's why these people who have this kind of creative problem-solving tenaciousness, right, make really great account managers because they can go upstream, solve bigger problems. And that's the difference between a $1 million account and a $10 million account. Is simply how far you're willing to go upstream to solve the problem and to break that box that the customers put you in.
Well, that's great. I love that. Matt, your thoughts on that?
I mean, it just makes sense. I mean, I don't want to, I know it's not all that much fun for me to be like, yes, I completely agree. But geez, this is all stuff that I think everybody believes in, right? Like everybody believes it. It's just a question of are we taking the steps towards implementation and execution?
So, all right. So now I get it. I wanted to dig in, one of the things, so we're going to get in the weeds. Account managers should be brought into the sales cycle at 60% of the initial sales cycle, right?
Yeah, something like that, because they're highly credible. They can connect the dots. They speak in the customer's language, assuming that they're industry experts. Don't bring them in as here's the handoff person, or here's the person who's going to be training your team. No, that's not the point. The point is, here's someone who's worked with 5 to 10 other organizations just like you and has helped them solve problems A, B, and C, and is going to tell you what the future holds, meaning what risks are going to come along, and is going to guide you and be a leader for you to make sure that you get your goals met. That's a much better way to present it. Yeah.
And then from there, though, when does the account manager begin the process of actually being the point person for engagement?
So there's obviously a handoff. And by the way, handoffs are one of these things total disasters in most companies. Okay. I mean, I'm sure all of us on this call have been through this where you're buying something and then, you're buying from Julie and all of a sudden Sam shows up and then Sam vanishes and then some other new person shows up and you're like, wait, who's my what again? Who do I call for this, that, or the other? So you guys are going to do whole episodes on handoffs in the future, right? For today, we'll just say they're a disaster for the most part. Yeah, but there are obvious places where the account manager is involved. First, as soon as the customer becomes a customer, the account manager owns it. Okay, it doesn't mean that they're running the implementation. It doesn't mean that they're the person training on the software or doing some of these weeds. But their job is to help the customer succeed, period. Help the customer succeed. Why? Because that's how we deliver profitable revenue back to the business, by helping the customer succeed. So right away, and then, so sometimes the salesperson will stick around. I don't know. Usually that's a result of handoffs not being properly orchestrated, for example, or the right data not flowing back and forth, or people not feeling fully informed. But if you start your account manager in the conversation early enough, he or she is ready, right? They're just ready to rock. They're ready to go. And so I think it should be sooner rather than later. And then the ownership just lives with them.
Okay, perfect. And then I think we talked about this. How do we, what's the word? do we tie account managers to specific reps, regions, use case types? Like how do we organize within the group?
There are lots of different ways to do this. So you can have account managers by vertical, by geography, or by segment. So meaning, key accounts, strategic accounts, key accounts, named accounts, house accounts, and then long tail. So there's lots of different ways to do it. You're going to get the most bang for your buck, typically speaking, by keeping it vertical, because then you can have your financial services expert, right, who just speaks the language of financial services and is extremely credible with anyone who's in that business versus the healthcare person versus the marketing person versus the whatever. Now, your question kind of begs a follow-up question, Craig, which is, well, how do we do this if we have a portfolio of multiple hundreds of customers? Like, how do we figure this out? And therefore, you do want to be very rigorous and thoughtful in your customer segmentation. So customer segmentation, like, talk about another thing that most companies don't do very well. Customer segmentation. So they typically are very lazy about this. They simply say, how much is this company paying me? And I'm going to put you in a gold, silver, bronze bucket, and that's it. And we're disregarding really important things like potential, commitment, alignment with our roadmap. Like, how do they want to be engaged with? Because you've got big customers who are like, no, we're totally hands off. And then you have smaller ones who say, yeah, but we're growing fast. We want to do all sorts of stuff with you. So there's a whole matrix that we can be using around segmentation. So typically what I see works best is small numbers of very large accounts. So at the key account, strategic account level, it's 1 to 5 accounts per rep. And then at the house account, it's somewhere between 5 to 15 accounts per rep. So that might be your $1 million ones, or you get 1 to 5. Your $250,000, $100K plus, you're getting sort of anywhere between 5 and 10, 5 to 15. And then you've got long tail. Long tail is a great place, by the way, for scaled, quote unquote, customer success to live and stuff like that. It's not a great place for a ton of account managers to be running around. The other thing that people do wrong is they mix vertically. They mix across the segments, right? So like, oh, well, Sam has 2 strategic accounts, 4 house accounts, and 17 long tail accounts, right? Like, so how does Sam know where to spend his time? He doesn't. Right? He's sitting there saying, I'm just going to respond to whatever comes in. And so being more thoughtful about how we segment, especially if we're doing verticals like I'm recommending, like, you can find huge growth there. Like, imagine you've got one team who works with the top companies in one specific area, one specific vertical. Let's say they work with Google and Amazon and Facebook. They can go run wild in those accounts, 10x those accounts or 100x those accounts based on everything that they're learning. So I love to see people be a lot more thoughtful about this than they are.
Well, Matt and I can agree. We both, when I started here 3 years ago, he was one of my first DIRs. And I was like, it was a never ending thing across the board. You know, there's the top level ideal customer profile, then there's segmentation. By the way, I'll tell you this, one thing from us, part of our playbook research, Alex, is we've been talking to these sort of new age demand gen SDR type consultants, and their big thing is not just segmentation, it's segmentation of segmentation. Mm-hmm. Because the tools are there. So like we had this guy Jordan Crawford, he's like, he gets down like to where's that killer use case. And it could be a much smaller segment to the segment to the segment. And so I think there, if that keeps catching on, which is working, by the way, on the demand side, the tighter you could segment, the more likely you could be relevant and impactful enough to drive new business. So I hope that's sort of an impetus for people sort of focusing segmentation on doing better on segmentation overall. So anyway, just a side comment there. So the process of developing complex stakeholder maps, identifying key initiatives across those stakeholder maps, any advice for folks there? I think that's an execution. Like, I think we were talking about, like, which is a true statement. We have a organizational strategy and overall sort of approach issue. But then we do also have execution issues from the account management side. What does that look like? Like, how could we do that better?
Stakeholder mapping is a big conversation in the account management world. And there's two things that are routinely happening that are not good. The first is we are talking to too few people inside the account. So I could have $1 million account, a $5 million account, and I literally have like 2 people that I spend most of my time with there. The other issue is they are typically too far down in the organization. So we have reluctance to call on the stakeholders who are more senior, the decision makers, the sponsors. And so this creates all sorts of false indicators to understand how's it going with the account? Like, what's the health score of this account? Because if you're talking to only 2 people and they're too junior, you're getting one set of data and information that is not actually the truth. And so big deal around making sure you are broadening, so meaning you're going wide and that you're going deep. And in this case, it means like high, that you're consistently calling on the executive sponsor or the decision maker. Now, the way that I define these, so I think about it as executive sponsor, decision maker, champion are your main people that you want to be working with as an account manager. The executive sponsor is the person who owns the overall business problem that you are solving, right? So they probably are not in the weeds, but they have a general sense that we need to get better at X, right? So X could be customer acquisition, producing our thing, whatever it is. So they've got overall ownership of the problem. That is your executive sponsor. You need to be engaging with them. Like, and as an account manager, you might feel nervous, like, oh, but this person outranks me by 4 levels in the org chart, and they're 20 years older than I am, and so on. Still, you got to go to them, spend time with them. Remember, you are the expert at solving problems that they have. The decision maker is the person who owns the actual budget and probably is the one who signed the contract. This is the person who generally speaking, everyone points up to as the boss, right? So the decision maker will have made some type of decision to go with you or to buy your thing. And they own, therefore, the completion of your project, right? Like their job is like, get the thing done. And then the champion is the person that you're working with on a more regular basis, daily basis, weekly basis, someone who gets your value proposition and whose fortunes are very closely tied to yours.
Yeah.
Right. So project works, they're a hero. Project bombs, they're out there looking for another job or at least being very worried. So what does this mean in terms of org charts and stakeholder mapping? We've got to do the work of asking radically curious questions to these people, right? Especially when we haven't talked to them for a while. And our assumptions are killing us. We have so many assumptions in our heads that are untested that we haven't bothered to refresh, hypotheses that we don't know are true or not. And we're running around like they're gospel. So when you ask someone on your team and they say, oh yeah, this, that, or the other, they got it all worked out. In reality, we don't actually know. So I always like to make sure we're asking really radically curious questions to figure out what's actually going on. I believe that we should always be focusing on the customer goals, like what's the customer actually trying to accomplish. And that's how we build out the org chart. The org chart is not just who works for whom. Like you can get that on Zoom Info. You can get that on LinkedIn. It's who works for whom. Do they like us? Do they not like us? Are we solving a problem that matters to them or not? What was our last interaction with this person? Who might they also interact with or influence? And so I've seen org charts, you guys, that are like 400 stakeholders large, right? With like, and these are in like $50 million single accounts, so extremely large accounts, right? But you see all these lines flying all over the place, and they're trying to map this out and figure out what this person cares about versus this person cares about. And you got to look at individual goals, like what do they care about as a person versus what's their company initiative, and are we matching them up, and link all that stuff back to what we're doing. So I think it's a huge area. When we do programs, for example, within AMplify, we spend a ton of time on stakeholder mapping, contact mapping, figuring this kind of stuff out. It's such a foundational element.
Yeah. I mean, I will say just as an operator, I mean, so much of the of our MarTech stack, like I'm going to cut some of it at the end of the year, and I'm going to double down on some other things. Now, none of these people have even approached me, so they have no clue. Like they're going to get to the end of the contract and we're not going to re-sign, and they're going to be like, what happened? Right? Like I'm holding the budget. I'm building out, the finances and the P&L for us next year. And I'm like, yeah, that's out. That we're going to spend 20% more on. This is a really interesting piece of technology. I wonder what's on their roadmap. Like, the thing is none of these vendors reach out to me ever, right?
I want to ask you a question about that, Matt. Do you sit in on QBRs? Do people invite you to quarterly business reviews?
They don't do them anymore.
They don't even do that.
They don't do it. The last time I sat in a vendor's QBR was Sales Loft in 2017. Maybe
2017?
Maybe 2018, yeah.
Okay, so generally speaking, as a general rule to everyone who's listening to this podcast, like QBRs, whatever you call them, QBR, EBR, literally like whatever you call it, just do them. Go talk to your customers, share the results, share your knowledge, provide some insights, have your customer meet some new people on your team who've got interesting ways to think about the world, and just do it. You don't have to do them every 90 days. There's no rule that says that. Just have the discipline to do this and stick with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing that SalesLoft used to always do that I appreciated about them was they'd be like, hey, this is like your, response rate. This is how you rank against everyone else that's out there. Like, did you know that you have an exceptionally high response rate? And be like, awesome, right? Like, hey, you're achieving your goals with our product, right? And it made it feel like a really invaluable part of my tech stack, right? Whether that was true or not, I don't know. I assume
they were at least doing the work.
They were doing the work, right? They were doing the work. And then it was like, here's what's on the roadmap, here's what's coming around the corner, right? Like, do you want to test this out? You want to be a lighthouse customer for this product, etc. And I think that that's one of the things that's sort of gone away.
It's a real, if that's gone away, it's a real problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look at that. We got to use a real life example of a customer in Matt.
Mm-hmm.
And Alex was able to pivot off your commentary and add some real actionable best practices there. That
the chemistry
is the transaction.
The chemistry is unbelievable.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's just, especially with you on Dayquil. I like it. All right. Well, that was awesome. And we haven't ever, literally, first time having this conversation on the show.
Yeah.
I'm actually it's not clear to me who else we could talk to that would have this conversation. So we'll have to have you back after you spend some time with more customers and you learn more. Really actionable, really interesting, an important part of the business that's neglected. That was a great show. Great story. Great story. So Alex, you did a great job, buddy.
Yeah.
Awesome. Great. Well, thank you.
I mean, for our entrepreneurs and our CEOs that listen, I mean, I guarantee you guys are hearing about, where's your NRR at your board meeting? This is a huge hot topic.
Oh, believe me. Yeah, I know. So perfect. All right. Well, that's a transaction. I'll be, I did get my tickets to Zach Bryan while we were on the call.
Oh, I noticed you were a little distracted.
Well, just momentarily because I was getting the codes on my phone and I couldn't figure it all out.
Oh,
and
there's nothing like buying tickets nowadays. Oh my God.
Enjoy the show.
Geez.
Enjoy.
Yeah. All right, guys. Take the rest of the day off.
All right. Great to be with you. Thank you all.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of The Transaction. Craig and I really appreciate the fact that you've listened all the way to the end. What are you actually doing here? For show notes and other episodes, please visit us at thetransactionpod.com. Like and subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any other place you get your podcast from. Either you have walked away from your podcast device, or this is playing somewhere in the background. Someone in your house would really like for you to shut this off now.